who works. Well, there's can't hear me talking. Really? The mic seems to be working. Okay. Let me just do this. So I just got to set up again, guys. So these are the daily battles that I have. Um, but first world problems, eh? And this is a thing that um. What's up, big boy? No, no, no. You've had enough already. Okay. Close the door. Close the door. Um. The the degree of kvetching and moaning that you see coming from the United States it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed watching, like I say, a country that I love, um, going through these convolutions. And what was that? Hydroxychloroquine. Uh, it's Japan, and like I say, everything is small in Japan. Right? People don't get it. So everywhere else in the world that I've lived, okay, when you go shopping, you get a shopping cart, right, and it's got a handle and it's like a big box, right? In Japan, you basically get a thing for a basket. You get a trolley for your basket, and that's what you fill to do your grocery shopping for a week. And that's still, I mean, we live off the cheapest of the cheap, and that's still like 60, $70 a week for a hand basket, and that still means going to get milk once or twice a week, juice, orange juice for the kids, that type of thing, and their fuse boxes are small, right? So all older houses have 30 amp fuses, okay, and let's have a look. So let's see if crackling. um, uh, so where we still got 22 back. We're just sort of filtering. And again, I can only apologize, guys. And so in Japan, everything's small, and the Um, the normal, I don't know, living. It seems there's a Japanese way of living, and we don't live it, right? And uh, the and I'm just not adapted to their environment. The winters are fine, spring and autumn is fine, but not the summer. I literally like they don't seem to sweat here, which is kind of odd. But um, I go out in the summer. It's so humid, and I'm literally like psh, everything is just sort of gushing off me, and um, it's the it's the one of the few disadvantages of living here. Otherwise, it's let's Cracker's complaining because his invite is not working. So um, let's uh, let's just get that sorted out real quick. Horatius, did you unban uh, Cracker? Because I see he's not banned. We have a new subscriber, Trance. How do you do? That might be a sock puppet for Mr. Cracker, but wait 1 second. Master and Commanders, if you could, he's blocked and banned on my. What's this one? Okay, so I think that should be sorted out by now. So we got 29 back. Okay, so for the people that are coming back, again, I apologize for the power cut. It's just life in Japan. And I say, I've got loads of footage from this GoPro cameras, but as they're cheap, the features that they advertise don't work. So I can't look on a mobile device to see what the camera's looking at. And so I'm just catching a lot of rubbish at the moment, and I'm ashamed to sort of put it online. What I want to do is I'm thinking of making a Dropbox folder that people can upload to. I think you can do that. You can make a Dropbox folder that people can look at now. So you can look at stuff and copy stuff down. And I might try and sort of just put photography from Japan, which is basically just going to be family snaps, etc., just to give you guys an idea of what's going on. I mean, I did get some nice footage of the dam last week in the sunshine as well, with all the water pouring out. So I do. Again, it's me being lazy, and I'm not. I'm not doing well with my time, with spending time talking to you guys, and then spending time with family, and then having to do all the other stuff that I'm promised I would do, because we for sure they're going to shut us down soon. The channel will get nuked, and like I'm not putting anything SARS related in the title in the hope that they'll leave me alone. But it just seems that they want to shut down anything that doesn't correspond to the orthodox opinion. And again, why is that? Well, it's because of cranks like Kaufman running their mouth off, and their signal being boosted by retards like Grifter from Boston, Crow 777, and then all these other channels that are convinced that there's a grand matrix-like deception going on, and they can't trust anything around them. And I sort of take the view that there's elements of truth in thinking that way. Okay, for sure we know a lot of these things go on. Is it as extensive to the point where you're jacked into a pod and everything you're seeing is a shared hallucination, and Jeff Bezos and Amazon run all those body servers that you're jacked into. No, I don't think it's that bad. I think there's a element to society and culture that's been that's part of the nature of the system, that you're always going to have people that try to engage in parasite like behavior, or they're going to engage in a sort of fuck you mindset. I'm getting to the top no matter what. And in that sense, the there becomes a problem when you look at it within the political systems that we have extant at the moment, right? And and actually when I was talking about this, I missed one, right? So we can have uh, the end of the spectrum with libertarianism. We talked about the end of the spectrum with communism, but there's a third one, and that's theocracies. Okay, and theocracies, when you look across time, are stable cultures as well. Okay, and I would say you could make the argument that Israel is a theocracy. Okay, and it's quite a strict one about who and what it lets into the country. So they were fine for me to go in and work there and bring money there. Okay, but there was particular places that were just verboten to a goyim. Okay, and that's how they are. But Islam has the same. Okay, if you're not Muslim, you can't go to Mecca, and those countries have a way of propagating themselves across time, whether it's through doctrines written down in Holy Scripture to philosophical thoughts penned out around the concept of human individuality and uh, the rights of the individual versus those of the ruling class. And we're always, like I say, us guys talking down here to webcams and just back and forth to each other. We're not peons scratching around in the dirt. We've got some degree of first world living. I think I don't think we have any posters from the Congo or Nigeria, except maybe Devil Sperm Doctor. But the um, we are insignificant, right? And even if you went in the path that I was, and you went to PI, and say you even got to the head of a institute, for example, even then, that's just a minuscule part of the systems that we do have, right? And they do come with particular privileges as you climb up the scale. And this brings us round to um, this idea. So Brendan's thesis that America has been occupied. I don't think America has been occupied. I think a lot of American or critical individuals within American infrastructure have been compromised through their, yeah, what would you call it? It's not desires. It's their. You control people, like once people are comfortable. Okay, the way that you control people is you start indulging them their um their fetishes, more like. And you could have a fetish about music, right? And you spend all day playing the violin, but if you follow the line of reasoning, it sort of extends to um, all aspects of your life. And part of how we've moved modern society is we've allowed this. Um, oh, we've got the Magic 33 watching. Do, do, do. Um, we've allowed the most easily manipulated component of human existence become part of the deconstructionist dialogue, and that's sexuality. Okay, and we have now fetishized it so much in the West, where it's gone from trying to, well, okay, there's a spectrum of responses that could be invoked. Okay, should you be caught engaging in homosexuality? So if you're caught in one of those theocracies, the cure is the building drop. Okay, and you can find that on video on YouTube, should you so desire. And am I of the opinion that you should drop someone off a building for being a homosexual? No, I don't think that's the right way to do it. But I also don't think we should be indulging every whim of these people. Okay, because this is a factor of what was, if you looked at the Epstein network, what was it doing? A kind of entrapment by playing into people's desires and needs, okay, and tempting them, okay. And again, you look at that link that I put in. That's from Henjin, right? He did that, Crypto Beast. Listen to that woman, and then look at the closeness of can someone please get Cracker back into the thing, because it breaks my train of thought, and he's not. Is there? Do we have a mod in? Ellie, please let Mr. Cracker back in. He's been in the naughty box for long enough, and I don't see a green room. I'm internet. You quarantine zone. I hope some mods can sort out. There's someone trying to get in. Internet's trying to get in, and Cracker as well. So let them back in. And so if you buy into what was talked about on this crypto, so Jason Goodman, George Webb, and there was another woman, were basically sort of LARPing as these investigative reporters, and per her claims, she said that there were very obvious operatives working behind them that they would be in contact with. And George Webb makes no secret of having what he calls good Mossad contacts rather than the bad Mossad contacts. And to be saying that unironically, to me, is it's hilarity personified. And please tell me that's sorted out. Are we sorted out? The money is back by property tax, property, homes, land, and vehicles. Yeah, that's true. And I hope internet is in. Can I see Cracker or his other avatar? I don't know. It's not working for me right now. So, but Wellness Path actually makes a good point. So, that your property, even though you think you own it, you're still just kind of leasing it because they tax you on it. Okay, and that's a constant all round the world. Okay, you will pay tax on your properties. Now, you might be able to get an Epstein-like circle going where they're able to dodge these taxes. But us peons at the bottom don't don't have that luxury, right? We are we are subject to the acts that they make, okay? And a lot of them you can avoid by not agreeing to be a part of them. But there's a component which, if you're domiciled somewhere, they're going to start taxing you, property taxes, etc. And you're that's how they build wealth. And there is generations and generations of wealth that has been piled up in these treasuries that they just play with. And the, the money the money situation right now. So there's one thing I could buy into about this sort of pandemic component, is that the debt that's accumulated is so large that the numbers just don't make sense. There's nothing you could ever do to catch that debt if even there's a fraction of a bit of compound interest applied to it. So all you're ever doing is pulling and pulling from the future. And I think that's why you sort of see this concept of the okay boomer types that, they built the system at a time when education was free, and then they offshored everything and removed the industries which pinned together communities. And like I say, I can only speak from the British perspective, and that was personified in the miners' conflict in the 1980s. I mean, there were earlier strikes before that. There was the unionized. The unions were a big deal in the UK, and Margaret Thatcher, a lot of her government was spent busting these unions because they wanted to somehow be, well, globally competitive, I guess would be their argument, and trying to get their products down such that they were maximizing profits. Maximizing profits was a virtue, and there was this idea that it would sort of cascade down. And I don't think 30, 40 years ago, in the minds of the general populace, that there was anything approximating something like a breakaway civilization where individuals have the resources of countries at their fingertips, right? So that's essentially what corporatism is, right? That they've made these entities that are now able to sort of go across the world, essentially like you are, because they treat them as individuals, as entities that have existence in this domain, for want of a better word. And whose tonic is here? How are you doing? Taxes have climbed just as fast. Yeah, and this, like I say, the thing of flipping properties and stuff is a really gross behavior in my mind, because it's raising the bar all the time to the people that you need to build and maintain the stability of your culture, which is young people getting married and having kids, right? And there's if I was given the choice now between having my kids at my age or when I was 20 years younger, knowing what I know now, I would have had my kids 20 years younger, right? Because I'm an older parent and it's a job to keep up with them. And the reason I couldn't was that I was just in a trap of doing postdocs or PhDs, postdoc, and doing studies that just essentially means that you were moving all the time. And sort of so I'll tell you who'd give you a good insight to that was JC. He was talking about money and salary scales, and he was talking about at his position, which is assistant professor teaching position. So you have postdoc, and basically you'll get above that, which is his position, and then you get to a PI, which is the position that I had. And what was the salary scale in that? So I think JC said about $60,000 was like the annual earnings for his position. If you're in a postdoc, it averages around 35 to 40, depending on where you live. These are salaries that people, that NIH have decided that this is what you should be paying people who do these positions. So all these people that actually went through school and university and did all the extra work, okay, basically get paid the same as, well, I don't know what gets tele sales. I don't know, something like that. But even when I was earning at my peak, when I was working as PI, the salary range was around 67, I want to say, $1,000 once you'd accounted for exchange rates. And somehow, right, the world expects that a lot of these scientific breakthroughs and the systems that work to maintain the scientific nature of our existence. These are privileged, well-paid positions. They're not, man. What they do is they use your enthusiasm. They take the enthusiasm of the young, okay, and of course, knowledge is a beautiful thing. You've got to learn it, but we don't pay at the level that I think that you should with respect to, say, someone who's, I don't know, what would be a like legal, or if you're a doctor, you get paid a lot more. If you're a scientist, you get shit on, right? Because they know that there are enough people like myself who will just muscle through it because we want to know the answer to something, okay? And so with that in mind, you have to put that in the context of these circles that we're talking about. So is America occupied, a la the Brendan O'Connell thesis? Yes and no. What I would argue is there have been people that at critical junctures that have been corrupted at this level. Classic case that we look at is Charles Lieber from Harvard University. It just wasn't enough what he had, a chair position at Harvard University. He wanted the money and the
Daddy?
Yes, big boy.
I take the picture of this game.
Very good.
And I want to download that.
Go and ask Shah how to do it, or Eddie-chan. Okay.
I know already.
Alright.
And I don't know how to download it.
Good boy. Daddy's busy, okay? Can you... Do you want a mint?
Yeah.
Alright. Give Daddy a kiss. Alright, go close the door. Good boy. I forgot what I was saying now. The corruptibility of these people in these social structures that we've made ourselves, that was absolutely leveraged by Mossad and people, agents like Jeffrey Epstein. And don't think there's just one Jeffrey Epstein, right? That's one that you've found out. Okay, there's many others, and just my short interactions on the internet doing what I'm doing is, you see that there are these circles that appear, and there's an element of, well, that the mainstream media is controlled, right? Everyone's suspicious of what the mainstream media wants to tell you, and I'm suspicious of the fact that they're not discussing the neural component to SARS, or very little, and everything is just people dying, etc. And I don't think that's where the question needs to be. I think the question needs to be about what's the long-term impact on people's neurological health, and there aren't the resources there to do it, right? How many other neuroscientists are sitting down and speaking about this situation like I am? Okay, not very many. I mean, there will be some that will be trying to grift for, that's not grift, they're trying to get research grants, okay? And the only way that they're going to be able to do that properly is primate studies. That's that's what they'll have to do. So then you start giving this agent that has the chance to morph and mutate in these primate models, and it's just it becomes one big shit show. And then they'll have the same stupid mentality of, well, we can get PhD students to run half the experiments. They're really cheap, and there's uh, an assumption made about what people will do and respond to because they're interested or motivated to do it. And like I say, it gets bastardized, and then you feed in to people's desires and you indulge them, and that's that's what we've seen. And like I say, you get an Epstein, and start digging around George Webb. He's not that far away with respect to people that he knows who were involved with those parties, right? And anyone who's sort of sitting there and thinking, well, that's just a coincidence. I don't think there are coincidences in this type of information warfare that you're seeing going on, because that's essentially what you're involved in right now. Everyone is trying to find something that approximates the truth with respect to this situation you're in. A lot of people have some idea of it being the virus isn't real, it's all a pandemic, and if you're a Trump supporter, it's all a plan by the Democrats or Demon Rats to get the president out of office and get their man Biden in. I don't. That just seems such a small way of looking at it. Um, I would stick with the idea that um, there were contingency plans in place should something like the current circumstances emerge in the in people's consciousness. The idea that there's a pandemic, right? And this is how good they've been with respect to not only controlling the mainstream narrative, but also controlling the narrative with respect to what people will actively seek out on the internet. Okay, so everyone knows that they'll have a confirmation bias with the news that they go and see. Okay, and if you want to think that the masks are going to starve you of oxygen, you're going to search out information which confirms that. And even if I do how many demonstrations online in real time showing that it doesn't do that, it won't work with these people. Like I say, I showed you the Twitter link earlier where someone is convinced because someone else on a video that he trusts says there were 250,000 flu deaths last year in the United States. Okay, so here's what I think that you have to do. So Brendan was the start of this conversation, and so he makes the point that there's this technology landscape that's building. It's been building for a long time. It's not anything new, and these individuals and actors and entities that are involved in its emergence are, they might seem oppositional to each other at the sort of state or actor stage that feeds into the mainstream narrative, but behind the scenes it's not like that. There's more there's way more contact. There probably does become a lot of theatre, but there's also this issue, which is that what is it that you're listening to? And if you think if you understand the fact that these people were smart enough to make moves on virtually every aspect of your existence, such that your sovereign rights, let's call them sovereign rights, free man rights, your God-given rights to exist on this planet as a free human being. These people have systematically gone through using admiralty laws, for want of a better vernacular than that right now. It is more complex, but I think the admiralty law, a lot of people can intuitively grasp that, and you understand that They're taking a system and making you work within the system and deceiving you as to what that system actually is, in order to trick you into going along with something and paying taxes. Okay, because that's what it comes down to: taxes and agreeing to be part of their particular programs or endeavors. So for sure as shit, most of those channels that you're seeing on the internet, where they're getting big followings and they're arguing about the rights of people to wear masks or don't wear masks. It's a muzzle. There's no such things as flus. If you don't think that those scales, once you reach 100,000 people, 200,000 people, okay, that those people don't have influences that you can't see, then you're just as lost as someone who believes Fox News and CNN. Okay, and so I've made the point that there is usually something approximating a argument going on with respect to some element of reality. Is that a table? Well, there's the metaphysical arguments or the philosophical debate, and then there's the scientific arguments. And I would encourage everyone to look at the science, and even if it's the social science, between everything that you're looking at and trying to understand, because so much of the information that they're trying to feed to you has been editorialized for a particular group that has interests in the behavior of the individuals that make up a culture moving in a certain direction. Okay, so as the pandemic was breaking out and they were sending checks out to people for money, and checks for money, but they're then going to do vaccine research. Okay, in my mind, that was an incredible waste of resources. Okay, where that money should have been used to bolster the health systems that were engaged in the first line of dealing with this pandemic, such that if someone got ill and got taken out by dealing with patients confirmed ill, etc., that they didn't suffer in the long term. Okay, but giving billions and billions of dollars to vaccine makers, I think, was a terrible mistake. Okay, one, it just polarizes the population to the they're not taking it because it's full of nano chips and it's gonna fry your brain, to people that they want that, people call it hopium, right? The hopium of that there's going to be something that's going to sort of stop this thing in its tracks, and that's not going to happen. Okay, and we're in a situation where you just have to be aware of what it is that you're doing and looking at, and that comes from understanding and knowledge. Okay, so I think, well, that's what I try to do here, and I've been sort of rattling on, hoping we'd sort of pick people up that we lost along the way. So did live stream is blocked? Really? It says I'm online. You can see it. The Fed has occupied the US. Well, yeah, I guess you could say that. He controls the money, controls the but let me just catch up with some questions, and let me just see here. Yeah, alright, thanks. So, Cracker, you're not in the server. Revoked. Your ban's been revoked. You should be able to get in. Tell me if you can't. We've lost the mod to the hour, so I'm the only mod that's in here right now. So, let me just go through the comments here. The bubble in both debt and money is required to create the inevitable bust. Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's see. For centuries, money was backed by gold and silver. Look how the prices now are shooting up. Yeah, this is an issue with fiat currency, and again, what do you do, or how do they calculate it? And this comes down to what is their taxable base and what their assets have, and that's what they play with. And again, these are things that just if you're sitting here listening to me, okay, you're not like I say, you're not scrabbling in the dust for um, blood diamonds, okay? But we're not that high up the totem pole, right? We've probably got one foot on the rung, but we're one rung away from really it turning into a shit show, I would say. I'm being short, but large corporations crushing out locals or just don't have the size or weight to compete. Yeah, that's another factor. And again, there's this element of trying to giving or considering corporations as having rights like a human being does is problematic in my mind. I did the one about the bubble in the past. One way banks control things is they influence P and Z to try to ensure the values of property that they make loans on don't decrease in value. Banks have a lot of say. Yeah, they do. And, fractional reserve lending is a huge issue. And it's usury, right? A lot of people are caught up in the usury scam, okay, and they've made it so that you have to borrow. And one of the things that I rail against is that there's no way that we should be burdening children with a lifetime of debt to go through sketchy college courses. That right now the college courses have been infiltrated to the nth degree by those that would push a highly Marxist doctrine. So like I say, if that money they spent on the pandemic in the first few months, that should have just written off everyone's student debt, and that would have solved a lot of the stress and a lot of the problems that people were dealing with. Just get rid of that out of people's lives, and make these entities that are these universities. They're such massive bureaucracies now that they are like parasites with respect to the funding, right? So if you, as a principal investigator in doing science, you'll get a grant, and the institute will take 30% of it, right, just for costs, right? And they do that to every grant, plus they get the running costs with charging like tuition fees, etc. It's a huge money, I almost say laundering scam, but it's a gross thing to do to young people, especially young people where you're trying to inculcate some idea of heritage, and and that works within disciplines, right? So there are people that study within a discipline, and you want there to be the equivalent, like students of what's the word, apprentices that come and learn, and not only learn the skills of the technology at the moment, but the history of how you got there with respect to a discipline. That counts for a massive amount of propagating your culture to the next generation, okay? And in the West, we haven't done that. Or what we've done is we've actively dismantled that, right? Such that you've got this zombie movement, right? So, I play on the idea that this this virus affects the brain, and whether you're healthy or not, and don't die of the coagulopathy, I think the brain invasive component is a real issue, right? And the fact that violence has shot up across the world, and it's not just the United States, but violent crime is through the roof. You're in a situation where the police are completely demoralized and are resigning en masse, and you've got politicians telling the citizens of their cities agree with what the criminals want, right? Agree with what the criminals want. What a thing to say, and what a way to collapse or accelerate the collapse of your uh, civilization, your country, your culture. Okay, and that's literally the um, point on the precipice where the United States is. Europe, well, I can speak to the UK, less so to Europe, but Europe has been undermined. UK has been undermined by mass migration, multiculturalism, and I could speak to no end to the problems that it causes and the literal um, persecution of the indigenous who don't want to be taken over, who didn't want their industries sold by corporations so they could get a penny on the dollar. Okay, these are, it's a large web to sort of try to navigate around. But then you get to the point where you say, well, okay, it seems somewhat coordinated. Well, okay, what's coordinating it? So then you get to these supranational um, bodies. And I don't think organizations like the World Health Organization or the World Economic Forum. Let's think of another one. Um, even the UN, right? What I think is more important is the corporatism, the money, and the dollars that go into it, because that's what they have evolved to do. Okay, and it doesn't matter what it is that they do. And then there's elements within it that promote particular traits. And so there's some odd statistic that 50% of CEOs score really highly with respect to psychopathy, or and other sort of traits that many normal human beings would find somewhat disturbing. Okay, but in this case, they managed to do it, and their sociopathy was manifested within an environment where it got rewarded in some way, and so the 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 planning and the Machiavellian type thinking and cutthroat actions just gets you up the ladder, if you want. And I guess Jordan Peterson would argue that as this sort of hierarchy of competence. And in a ideal world, that might be true, but in what I see is not that. What I see is just corruption a lot of the time, and people on the make a lot of the time. All the things that you think are supposed to be there, that are there, that are supposed to act as some sense of security, they're not there. Okay, and it's in most countries, most people are living month to month, right? And if you if you're unlucky enough to be caught in the rent and the debt trap, okay, that's you in the current circumstances in a very, very, very bad position right now. And as the data has come in, and we're looking at the real time development of the morbidity figures, how many people die. Okay, we know the older getting it, right? But we don't know the effects on the younger side of the equation because of this neuronal component. And I think it's anecdotal evidence, or it's correlation, and it's hard to really prove. But if there's an element going off in the brain in these younger people that's nudging them, well, to traits along the phenotype of the brain as it's adapted to the society. So again, I said, there's some people who's a little bit away from the schizoid break. There's someone who's a little bit away from their life going into manic depression. There's someone who's an inch away from going into mania. Okay, and there's many, many, many states with which the brain can express itself, and we don't know what this nicotinic targeting virus is going to do over the long term. And my prediction would be not only are you going to get the short term behavioral impulse, loss of impulse control, you're going to probably see it extend into emerging or a cohort of people with early onset neurodegenerative disorders and children with neurodevelopmental disorders. So, you know, I'm open to discussing all those elements with respect to the data available, but I think you have to be looking at the right data if you want to have that that argument and that discussion. So let me just where's my restream chat gone? I can read the questions here. I should keep that off the screen. Right? So, without debt, there's no money in existence. It's pulled out thin air. We probably all understand that here. Yeah, it's lending, bad debt, like in 2008. Yeah, and that's, you know, you've got people that know, but there were people that knew they were doing this, right? But were still prepared to shaft the system in the hope that they got on to the lifeboat, right? So it's literally the people screaming and you know, it's not women and children first and doing it in an orderly fashion, and the men protecting ourselves. We've debased ourselves so much with respect to materialism that we have we will screw over people on lifelong investments like a mortgage, which literally translates to death grip. Okay, and you'll throw any, or these people will throw anyone to the wolves if they think they're going to get an extra penny, an extra shekel, right? Modern Archive says the diabolical thing about flippers is how they acquire properties, new cost, like this. Realtors butter up old people over the years. Time to sell. Realtor happens to know someone. No need to list. Yeah, that's a big issue as well. And then there's this really sick component that's emerged where they're encouraging people to liquidate their assets at the end of their lives. Okay, so they're more comfortable with respect to the old people's care that they would be under. And there's something very wrong where, again, we allowed our culture to be debased to the point that the family unit, the extended family unit, was broken down such that old people or the elders were shuttled away to homes, and look what's happened in those homes, because again, you're watching incompetence, but you're also watching people looking to make money off this situation. So putting SARS victims back into old people's homes, I mean, the thinking, the fact that could come up in a policy meeting, to me, is insane. Right? Is there not any one person that has the balls to stand up in those meetings and just say, whoa, hang on a minute, that's an insane thing to think about wanting to do. Okay? But no one did, and I would put a lot of the blame on the fact that we've taken a lot of competency out of the hiring process and gone for diversity instead. Right, in some ways to try and make everything look egalitarian. Well, now everything's egalitarian because we're all subject to this pandemic, okay, that has this element of, well, the unknown, the nightmare fuel, the rabies component, right? And I don't think it's something to dismiss right now, because I'm just seeing too many telltale signs of there being something wrong. Okay. All right, so let me just read a few more questions, and then hopefully I can get off my little rant and we'll do something a bit more fun. Do we have a glitch? Are we streaming? Have I just been ranting for nothing? I've got, it says 48 people watching. Well, I'm not getting comments through, so again, it's broken down. Comment in YouTube. Oh, yeah, I know what might be wrong. Let me just try something. I can say, because I was ranting for felt like a good half an hour there, and I'd have been sad if that was lost. I am recording it at least. Chat isn't live, show is great. Oh, thank you, Anxious Aussie. At least it might be live now. Let me just see. Come on. The restream chat bot wasn't enabled because of the shutdown. It seems like everything is working. So test, that's it, gone. Okay, so as long as you can hear me, and I didn't miss too much, so I'm just going to go back through the YouTube comments and yeah, and Starlight Science just brings up a really appropriate point as well. So we tend to use the lowest paid people on the rung to look after our elderly, the people that have the wisdom, right, or the experience that can look back across generations and can say to the young people right now, hey, you know what? This isn't such an unusual situation with pandemics. When I was young, we had polio, smallpox, etc. And this is what we had to do. TB, cholera, okay, all these public health issues had to be dealt with at a societal level. And to think that these things didn't happen in the past, like the idea that you should be wearing masks, etc. You need these old people with these memories around to be able to relay that wisdom and these tales to your younger the youngsters who need to come up, right? Because once that's been removed and detached, and there's a couple of serious, I don't used to call it, but fallout from engaging in what we've done with respect to old people. And in Japan, you don't see it so much. There's of course, there are shelters for elderly, but the elderly seem to be able to look after themselves, and the extended family is more intact in Japan, I would argue. They're trying really hard to dismantle it, but it's still there, and it makes a difference. It's the same with having a virtually homogenous culture. The country responds better to emergency because you don't have such disparate groups pulling in different directions. Okay, so if on the one hand you've got what do they call them now, the 3%ers, whatever, the sovereignists, sovereign rights citizens, etc. Smart help me out very much more at ease. Yeah. Have a good evening, Marie. And see Deluxe chats, good on you. He's an unsung hero. I don't know who Jamie Deluxe is, but Money Gawky. That's a great one. I'm stealing that one. So, you know, old people can give you something approximating a expectation of how things should work in a pandemic because they would have lived through them, right? But then they didn't live in such a technological society where we've become so dependent. And as an adult, do you outweigh the risk of the new vaccine over the harmful effects the virus could do to your brain if you catch it in old age? Mark, I would just right now it's scientifically impossible for them to do the safety studies in this vaccine, right, and to show its efficacy, and for Fauci to say that he would take something that's 50% effective, well then that's you may as well just be taking a placebo. You may as well just jab yourself with water, right? Because not everyone is infected, right? So we can look at other pandemics. We can look at that. Of course, there are elements to this disease that are problematic because there's an obvious gain of function component that we have to take into account that's not being discussed, and the it's a tough one, man. I don't like I said, I don't want to be the one sort of giving out advice with medicines to take, etc. I'll tell you what I would do personally. In my opinion, I would not take that vaccine because I don't see it as being thoroughly tested enough for it to be just be given on a mass scale in billions of doses to people where half the time it's not going to work, right? So half those people are at risk. So you may as well just let it burn through the population, because any pathogen like this, it has to come to some equilibrium with the environment, right? It's always the case. Now, um, we know that there are endemic diseases in countries. So a good one I was reading the other day was just that there are 50,000 people a year that still die from rabies. Okay, and I had no idea it was that much. But we've had to accept that that virus, which can take a hold of you using the same mechanism as the SARS virus, um, is endemic somewhere, and there's going to be a set of casualties that come with that, of people that get ill. and um, and in the meantime, we have the rabies vaccination, and I would say this in my context, because I've worked and had to work with and around rabies, I would take the shot as a preventative, so I didn't have that worry of contaminating myself and then coming back and contaminating others. Okay, so the virus didn't have that chance to get a foothold in me. And to ignore the utility of vaccines in that respect is bad science as well. Okay, all I would warn about is what I would say personally: a vaccine that has been rushed through, like the they've got multiple ones now, right? All with different ways of trying to achieve the immunity. Um, until it's been in use for 10 years, we don't know what its effects are, and therefore I would defer. And like I say, I was pretty sure I went through the infection. It was fucking horrible. It had long term effects, but you know what? I still got through the other side. And maybe if I was 10 years older, I might not have been so lucky, and I lucked out this time. Um, but I think I'd still take my chances that way and sort of palliative care than risking something that's an unknown quantity. And there's this issue. What's it called? Where uh, you have this overreaction. So you give the vaccine, and then it causes. It's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, it causes essentially the body's immune system to overreact, and basically causes a lot of side effects, etc. Can be essentially dangerous. Made in China can't break the USA. Good slogan, but made in China can do a lot of damage to the USA. That's for sure. And yeah, it's an autoimmune. It's the word. I'm just missing the medical term for um, cheap equipment and cheap shit is a way for China to undermine the West. Yeah, but the thing is, all your high quality equipment comes from China as well. This is how bad it got. Okay, with the thinking within the globalist mindset, where profit was good and the free flow of capital and labor was the best system to be engaged with. And I would say that we're seeing the contradictions of that fall in and collapse in upon itself, much like we did with the Russian communist system. I would argue that you're seeing the contradictions inherent in the libertarian free market capitalist approach reaching its limits with respect to environmental pressures, okay, and internal contradictions. So we know that there's a level of fraud, of whatever, the the products that were pushed by the Mossad. Yes, big boy. Bless you.
I don't know what to do.
Oh, you're trying to get some games? No, you can't do that. Okay.
No, I'm trying to get this. I'm trying to make it through all of these numbers. I don't know what to equal.
What have I done here? Have I? He's playing numbers games. Am I gonna? I can't spend $10. You've got numbers games.
Don't make some passwords.
No, I don't. Right. Daddy can't do it. Dad doesn't have the money. Okay, he has to play something else. Okay. So, close the door, big boy. Mark till we know more. Bad moments. See. We'll just catch up with the questions here. Let's get some web pages up and talk about other more interesting, because there's always this discussion that we're having with respect to systems, what's happening now, is it pandemic, etc. It's an ongoing discussion, right? And you can, in most people's memory, can think back to 9/11. Yet there's some people that might be listening that were born after 9/11, right? And that wasn't an isolated point in time either. Okay, you can go back many steps, right? So you have to get into an argument about the sins of the father, etc. And I don't think pathogenic priming, yeah. So immune system priming. No capitalism, no socialism, no communism. Only different veneers on monegarchy, fascism. Yeah, I'd agree that help get eco health, etc. Hold them accountable. Yeah, I'm banned from posting at eco health, so I don't think that's going to be a useful endeavor, trying to use my account. I burned that one with alright, so that's nonsense. Yeah, I was just looking at my Twitter. So and you're about to defend Israel in the US. Don't even know the words if you love YouTube channel. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a discussion to be had about Israel, right? Like, I've lived in the country. Okay, I've seen what they're like, and they have positioned themselves well and are playing off each side with respect to what they think is of benefit to themselves. But there's a lot of decent Jewish people I've met as well, right? I've met lots of decent people. I've met assholes everywhere, and I've met lots of decent people everywhere. Yes, big boy.
My Wi-Fi is going crazy, and I've been trying to play Roblox, and then the Wi-Fi is going dying again.
I don't know what's wrong with it. Why can't you connect to that one?
I can play Roblox.
Can't play Roblox. Play downstairs.
No, don't let me.
Don't let you?
Yeah, Roblox don't let me play now.
Go ask Sho to help you.
No, Dragon doesn't know how to turn my Wi-Fi away.
Go and charge it up. Go charge it up. Wait, guys, let's take a 5-minute break. And oh well, holy shit! Alright, so I don't know what's happening in Austin, but it looks like a zombie meeting, and so Austin, please, breaking up at George Fentanyl Memorial, St. George, please. Yes, Jigs. So I don't know why that's not working, big boy. Why can't you connect to this one? Connected. Alright, now try playing Roblox.
I don't know doing what. I there's no tie hands.
I don't know. Oh, there it goes. It's loading. Sorry guys. Is that yeah? It's just happened. Apparently, it's in my Twitter.
It's working. It worked.
It worked.
Yeah, that's why the tie hand being here before.
Right.
So we don't make tie hands. We don't like tie hands.
So you know, again, this pulls us back round to the idea that there are people who are suffering from lack of impulse control, etc. And some people, it happened tonight. It was for that guy that got shot at the BLM protest while holding an AK-47. Really, that's hilarious. This to me again is the the contradictions of the system beginning to eat itself with respect to the United States. And there's if right now there's this decision, right? So right now is the prime time for the people to be able to get back these industries from places like China and give jobs and build communities around these industries, etc., and apprenticeships for the young. Try to sort of break the back of this usury and service type economy, and stabilize your country in that respect. But I absolutely guarantee you what will happen if the world isn't torched by something approximating a large-scale war is that they'll just move it to places like Thailand or India, okay, and that's where the problem lies. And I understand the what's it? Can you see if donos arrive, or is that only Kev? Streamlabs. I've got, because of the power cut, everything went off. So if I've received a donation, I will just check and just give you a shout out. And Anxious Aussie, generous as always, thank you very much. And let's see, and Ash, thank you very much. And let's see, and Rob, you're most generous. Thank you very much. And I think the zombies should work now. If you want to, let's just see. Let's see. Rob, if you're watching, I'll try to get round to removing it. Just see. Actually, you know what? I don't want to create sort of bad blood. So the video from yesterday where I had to leave early, I need to make private right now just because I did put that guy's telephone number up. So give me another second whilst I sort out the mess that is my YouTube channel. And you see, when I was growing up, I thought that we would be at that point where it would be like Star Trek, and you should just be able to speak to the computer and it do what you want, and it be instantaneous. So let me see. I just need to make video private for the time being. Alright, so I want to. No, come on. Okay, so guys that did shout out to Anxious Aussie. Let me try and make a is it gonna work? No, it didn't. All the OBS and everything is screwed up, so text to speech is not working. Power cut screwed me, and I can, like I say, if you're thinking of getting into this streaming lark, right? It's just a massive pain in the ass. So if you get like a power cut, all your settings are gone. You don't even have to touch your settings, and from one stream to the next, things don't work, and it's a constant battle just to be able to do what it is that you want to do. So let's just have a look. Just see, how does that explain the high forms that are on here, Kev? Anything ever silly today? Phones had buttons. Yeah. We defeated dial-up. Yeah, man. Look, I came from a time where the telephone was fixed in the corner. You went out and people couldn't get in touch with you. And you know what? It was okay, right? People lived. I went out as a kid in the morning and I would come back late of an evening. Okay, often too late because I'd want to stay out with my mates, and that was an issue as a teenager. And the the we've come to expect things to be controlled to the nth degree, and so I've seen that manifested most in like where people want the data immediately, and it's impossible to do. So like, even though we're sort of seeing running data with respect to coronavirus, or just use Worldometer for now. Okay, the the idea that you can even get some insight into this, right now, is miracle. It's a miracle of technology that this can happen. That we can have essentially this this real time update to the case numbers and the people that are dying. Okay, and yet still people are pissy and want to argue about the meanings and metrics of what's going on. So this looks an odd display. So daily deaths. I mean, okay. So I guess it's the volume is increasing so much that the numbers of dead are still dropping. So, but it is climbing, and it's concerning. But look, it's maybe flattening here. But again, the fact that you're even able to look at this, right, and not have to go down a library like you would have to when I was doing my degrees, I literally had to go down into the library and look to see if the library had that journal in on file, okay, the physical journal, okay, and it was a slow, laborious process. And I can look at papers from 20, 30 years ago, let's say 30 years ago, okay, so from when I was sort of studying, and you would see them have 20 references to what they were doing, and I guess it would depend on the discipline and what you were studying. But now the bibliographies are massive and extensive, and it's virtually impossible to get all the papers in them. And actually, what you find is with the reviewing process is that a review is just a way for the reviewer to get their papers put into a manuscript that someone has written. And I've done it, right, where they've tried to explain something, and I think, well, no, they have to put it in the context of the work that I've published, and then that gives me a citation. And so these are all these things that sort of play into the metrics. If you played the metrics game in science, and people do, and there's a lot of people that are able to sort of spoof the system because they always get their name on a paper, and so they artificially inflate their H index, or you could use something like ResearchGate, which gives you a score for how many publications you've got, etc. So the issue with these things are, one, just be bloody grateful you have them, and two, learn to look at where it is that you're getting your data from, right? And if you're getting it from Alex Jones or equivalents, you're going to be missing the target, right? So let's not forget that I did a episode where the third world science or something like that, and there was a couple of studies that I pulled up, and one of them was the 5G study that the basically was saying, I'm trying to, that DNA was acting as a transponder aerial, and it was causing coronaviruses. Right? It was so badly written. It was like a parody paper, but it managed to sneak its way onto what is the sort of respected database of PubMed, and then Alex Jones, that comes onto his radar, and then that pushes this narrative that comes from the exosomists, okay, that 5G radiation is the issue, is the reason why everyone's developing all these symptoms at the moment, okay, and 5G makes your children to be born naked. Okay, that's quite a good one. Sorry to be rude, but I scheduled a premiere of my tidied up Shungite stream. I'll be back if you're still in here in 3/4 of an hour. Of course, Anxious Aussie. You take your time. And I started to watch it last night, and sadly, I fell asleep. But I want to do something funny because it's shit posting Sunday, and I want to see. Let's just look for uh, a grift extraordinaire. And it's one of them. It was one of the most hilarious videos that I've seen that you can sort of. Oh, the Boomer Products one was I didn't watch it all, but again, a grifter palooza, and is it this one? Yeah.
Two centers, and then I think there's 9 doublets. So you have 9 doublets, and then.
So at this point, this is the sketchy neuroscience of Cottrell and this purple power fullerene seller. let's just wind this back. But they're talking about these. There was a part they were talking about these quantum effects, and you know, like I say, if you can't find it in the brain using the fastest levels of acquisition we have for the macro scale, these people talking about this and talking about buckyballs enhancing their connection to I don't know. So like the one with the vitamin Joe is he's saying that your pulse and your heartbeat is related to the rhythms from the planet, and your nothing to do with your sort of physiological demands, but it's a you're not earthed enough, right, with the planet. You're disconnected, and so you will inevitably lose your ability for um, natural rhythms, I guess would be the best way of putting it. But this bit of
which it takes a while to
spectacular woo science, and like I say, this if you're going to go for a medical degree, you shouldn't be doing any of this type of BS. It's a no, right? And especially not selling. He won't make it as a doctor. There's no chance. He's fried that. He might get in at another medical school maybe, but this there's no way he's going to get into a really good program. He's not going to be part of the surgical team at Mayo Clinic or anything like that. Not with what he's done right now. And look, there's a particular he's breaking laws right now because his LARPing as a doctor, right, and sort of using Doctor so and so for a particular product. Let me see if I can find the cracker. Let me see if I can find it. Alright, so and so let's look at this as an example. So as so we started to watch this, but you can't claim second waves, okay, with the data that we have. Him going round and doing what he's doing right now, where he's got a call in saying, "Oh, Dr. Paul, etc.," and then talking and saying that there's going to be second waves, and you can't do any of that until you've got the data in hand, right? And so these types of amateur mistakes are just nails in the coffin of him trying to go down a credible scientific career, and especially him wearing those goofy specs and the stupid hoodie. And I wanna find. Um, where are we? Come on, come to daddy. Uh, let's see. Sorry, guys, for the dead air. Well, listen to some Purple Power
To
science.
bring that knowledge in, and just people, lots and lots of people working their whole lifetime just to understand some small segment of it. It's just amazing.
And you know, in the chemistry of how certain vesicles in carrier proteins are moving along the microtubules, and they're getting shuttled to certain areas of the cell. I mean, people don't realize there are railroad tracks in the cell. People think that it just roams around. It doesn't. There's railroad tracks, and it's just fascinating that's all governed by chemistry.
Oh yeah, the microtubules, when the cell divides, all the microtubules get together, and other ones pulling the DNA apart. You almost have like a quantum